Welcome to Markets Today. It's the 5th of October, the first trading day of the week, the first full trading day of October, which is the last quarter for the year. My name is Mbithe Mwema, and it is a pleasure to be able to host you today as we go through the markets, what was happening last week, and also sharing some trade ideas that we think will be able to make you some good returns over the coming days. Let's first dive in and see what was happening on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Our graphics team is putting up the charts for your benefit, and we have the NSE All Share, which was slightly up 0.34 percentage points to close last week on Friday at 140.22 points. Negligible performance on the downtrend for the NSE 20 share and the NSE 25 share. NSE 20 was at 1,852 points. That's down 3.36 percentage points. At this level, the NSE 20 share is looking a bit attractive, especially for long-term buyers. The price to earnings ratio is currently 9.2 times. This is significantly below the 5-year average, which has been 13 times. 9.2 times has actually seen foreign as well as local investors trickle back into the market with a long-term perspective for buying stocks on the cheap. I will explain this in a little while. Let's take a look at the next slide. What was happening to equity turnover for that particular week? We have the trajectory out there from the 20th of September till the 2nd of October. So minimal performance on Monday, 307 million was traded. It went down to 182. We saw a huge jump on Wednesday, 651 million, but the week closed at a low of 236.45 million value in terms of the turnover that was traded. This week was almost half of what we saw in the previous week. The previous week, there were some huge trades that went through Equity Bank. This particular week, on this day, Wednesday, Safaricom was the big trader for the day. But week-on-week basis, this volume for this week was 50% lower than what we saw in the previous week. Now, tackling at this and try to understand what was happening. For the foreign investors, for this particular week, they did remain net buyers, and there were mostly buyers out of Safaricom, especially on the day of Wednesday as we went to the end of the week. Looking at the performance of the market, the local investors were 25% of the total activity for the week, whereas the foreign investors were 75% of the activity. Nothing new here. Foreigners tend to be anything between 65 to 70% on any given day or week or period. So that was not as much of a surprise for the markets. Key thing that was happening last week on corporate news was Jubilee Holdings. Jubilee Holdings is one of the Tier 1 insurance companies offering general and life insurance. Last week on the 29th, it made a material public announcement with the possible acquisition, or rather an ongoing acquisition, of part of its general insurance business by Allianz. Allianz is a company that is listed in Germany, has over 100 million customers, and has been looking for brownfield opportunities to actually get into its footing in the African continent. Allianz will be buying 12.3% of the general insurance business of Jubilee. Now, the details from this transaction, which were made public last week, allude to the fact that Allianz will be paying 10.8 billion shillings worth for something that is valued on the books of of Jubilee at 3.9 billion. You can actually see they are buying assets that are valued at 3.9 for 10.8, which is giving it a bit of a premium. And this particular premium, which to be precise is 1.95 times over the book value of the assets that they're buying, has actually seen Jubilee become the top performer for the week. Wednesday up 10%, Thursday 10%, Friday 10%. Entire week it's already up 32.6% and closed last week on Friday at 291 shillings per share. The valuation and the information that was made public means that for you as an investor, you need to trade cautiously. But that said, when we use the Allianz participation rate or the transaction strike price, we are actually able to get an implied valuation for Jubilee Holdings, which is possibly almost double the price that it's trading at. Just before I came to the market, I did take a look at what was happening on the NSE. And nothing much has happened on Jubilee. It's trading. The traders, the people who want to buy it, are at price at 270 shillings per share. The sellers are priced at Friday's closed 291. there could still be an opportunity for you to leverage on this particular upside that could be there at least for this particular quarter. That said, let's take a look at who the top gainers were specifically on Friday. The top movers on Friday, Safaricom. Safaricom was also the top mover for the entire week. It accounted for 57% of the total market trades over the week. The majority of those trades, about 96%, was foreign bought, 85% foreign sold, and it closed the week at a price of 30 shillings per share, slightly weaker from what it closed the previous week. ABSA, we saw a huge trade on Friday. These are the Friday numbers, not the week-on-week numbers. ABSA, 1.94 million shares traded over the day. That's a huge chunk that went through. Kenya Re continues to be up the radar in terms of volume, as well as Kenya Power and Lightning, and Equity Group was at the top 5 for the list of top movers by volume. Top gainers on Friday. Top gainers, we had Bank of Kigali Group, a lot of foreign interest on this particular counter. Bank of Kigali is headquartered out of Kigali, Rwanda, but it did cross-list on the Nairobi Securities Exchange, and the NSE has been providing liquidity for foreign investors into this particular stock. It's up 10 percentage points to 14.6, driven by foreign investors, and foreign investors bought a lot of this over the week that just ended, 2nd of October. Jubilee Holding, as I mentioned earlier, week on week, it was the best performer, up 32.6 percentage points to 291.75. The key metric here, what is driving Jubilee, is the fact that Alliance has said that they will be buying 12.3% of the Jubilee General Insurance business. This transaction gives Alliance access to the East African market where Jubilee operates, Tanzania, Rwanda, as well as Kenya. This is how the market is interpreting the news. Alliance has said that they will be buying 12.3% of the general insurance business of Jubilee. This particular business is 12.3% of a business that is valued on the books, which is the asset value of 32.3. The total general insurance business is 32.3 billion. Alliance is buying 12.3%. This 12.3% that Alliance is buying, they will pay 10.8 billion. So they're paying 10.8 billion for 12.3% of a business. And this is actually translated to a jump in the price, because the market is saying if 12.3% of a business is valued at 10.8, yet on the books the entire business is 32.3 billion, then the entire business is worth double, if not more, from what we are looking at. In other words, the market is saying, based on these transaction parameters, Jubilee should be trading way up beyond these prices. It could be double or certainly more above this rate. It's not untenable. We have seen Jubilee trade on a high of 415 shillings per share over the last 12 months, so possibly something that could happen. But as a matter of caution, just be careful when you are trading this stock. Yes, there could be upside. The transaction is still ongoing. It has not been closed. They made it public and they are ongoing with it. Today, nothing much has happened. I think the traders, the buyers want to buy it at 270, sellers are at 291. But for long term, and especially for a short-term speculative buy, there could be an opportunity there. Scan Group up last week, 7.5. Today, it's on the losing streak. We've seen it come to about 7.3, 7.2 shillings per share. CIC Insurance, one of the top gainers as well for the week. It went up to 2.19 shillings per share. And Everready was up 3 percentage points to 0.97 shillings per share. Let's take a look at who the top losers on Friday were. We have Home Africa down 6 percentage points to 41 cents per share. Sasini down 6.15 to 18.3 shillings per share. Stanlib, a key thing that we have been looking at. 2 weeks ago, we did the investment case for this company and articulated their business. It is trading at 5.02. That was on Friday. Today, it's one of the top gainers of the day. The market has not closed, so we will be able to share these details tomorrow. What's interesting here is there have been some changes to the tax laws, and we are beginning to see a bit of interest when looking at Stanley Fahari for some investors who are saying that it's possibly better value for them to buy Stanley Fahari I-rate. The way this I-rate is structured, it's structured in a way that says that at the end of the year, it has to give out at least 80% of the earnings that it makes to to its shareholders. Halfway through the year, it declared 0.48 cents for shareholders, but it did not issue a dividend. The managers and the promoters as well as sponsors of this particular asset vehicle typically would offer this dividend to be paid out in the following year, 4 months after the calendar year. In other words, in May, there is a possibility that this company could pay you between 80 to 90 cents per share or per unit held, which translates to anything between 15 to 17% yield. Something worth considering and doing a bit more work on, because there could be some long-term value here, especially if you compare the fact that a 15 to 17% yield in a vehicle that has access to real estate opportunities is almost double what you would get from actually owning a real estate house. So something to consider and look out for at this price point. We have Longhorn there, down 4 percentage points to 4.51 shillings per share. Then we also have Centum, which closed the week at 20 shillings per share. That's pretty much what was happening when we were looking at the NSE. We also did share the key news that was happening last week. That was the Central Bank of Kenya, which left the benchmark rate unchanged. So not too much happening today on the Kenyan markets. But we take a break, and when we come back, I will introduce our guest for the day. But even beyond that, I will give you an overview of what is happening in the other markets across Africa, what returns are we seeing, what sentiments are we seeing, and more importantly, what are some of the trade ideas from our local desk here at Markets Today. See you after the break.